Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Max Jimenez with Max Cash Offers, and he's here to share how we've locked up 9 properties in the last 30 days in the super competitive market of Phoenix. If this is your first time tuning in, I am Steve Trang, broker and owner of Stunning Homes Realty, founder of the Offer Fast Homes app, the only app you'll need for wholesaling, and I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. So if that's something you're interested in, let's definitely connect on Instagram. If you're excited for today's show, please give me a wave, give me a thumbs up. And as a friendly reminder, I do not charge a dime for this show. I don't make any money doing this. So here's all I ask. This is what it costs for you to listen to this show. If you get value today, please tell a friend. You can share this episode right now, tag a friend below, or tell them your best takeaway later on. That way we can all grow together. And don't forget, this is a live show, so please post your questions for Max to answer. And before we get started, I just want to add that I'm also super excited. You know, Max has been working behind the scenes while I'm over here doing the podcasting. Max is the one that's actually making the operations run. Fun. So he's the reason why I'm not a no-hug guru. So, you ready?
Let's do it, man.
All right. So first question is, what got you into real estate?
Good question. What got me into real estate, I actually knew a friend of mine. This was years ago, probably like when 05, 06, when the real estate boom was happening and houses were going like hotcakes, right? So I was working in an office, and the gentleman I was working for was doing credit repair. And there was another office in there in that same, location, and they were doing a lot of fix and flips. So I befriended the gentleman who was the investor. So it was kind of cool to see that, but I never really got into it. So fast forward a couple years later, I always wanted to do something in my life. I didn't know what. I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, we could sit here and I can probably tell you all the things that I tried to start, all the businesses, handyman. I used to do yard sales, go buy I would go and buy, what is it called, bulk downtown, do yard sales. So I didn't know what to do. So 2013 comes around, 2014, the market started to come back up. I reached out to that same friend and I said, hey, the market's starting to turn. Are you interested in getting back into real estate? So this was late 2014. So he's like, you know what, maybe we'll see. He gave me that, maybe, and see what happens. So he goes, start doing your research. So I did. And the funny thing was, when I was doing my research, I started looking on Craigslist. So I saw all these properties on Craigslist, and now I know who it was. These were wholesalers, which I didn't know at the time.
Right.
So, and doing my research, trying to contact people, I would reach out to people. I would ask them. I was getting very frustrated. And my mother-in-law, I asked her, like, hey, do you know any realtors or anything? She's like, yeah, you can call the realtor that sold us our house. So I called her, and the lady lives in Florida. She's not doing no more business. So you can see my frustration. Like, you know what? I think this thing's not meant to be. So anyways, I called her, and of course, she gave me a story like, hey, I'm not in the real estate business anymore. I can't really help you, because I asked her to see if she knew who I can contact to get deals, properties. And she goes, but look up a guy named Sean Terry, she said. And I was like, oh, God, who is this guy now? Now I got to go look up somebody else.
Right.
So I didn't do it that night. The next day I went to work and stuff, and I got home, and I did. I Googled it, went to his website, downloaded his ebook, and I read it that night. And I said, what the heck is this? Yeah. You can do what? You can do this. So what my first call was to my buddy is like, you know what? I found this guy. He's saying you could do this. He's saying you could do that. And he's like, is he legit? So that's kind of how I got into, per se, into the real estate. Originally it wasn't like something I was looking for, but it came about because of that friend. So then, I started, obviously Sean Terry here locally. It was in 2015. I attended a couple of his meetups. Right before his event in October 2015, that friend passed away. He died of a heart attack in September. So it was really hard because we were going to build the business together. We were getting into it. So I kind of, pushed through, went to the event, at the end of 2015, which was in October. And from the time I went to the event, man, I submerged myself. I really took a deep dive into what wholesaling was, turned off a lot of the music for like 5 or 6 months straight. I mean, I pretty much dove into what wholesaling entailed and make sure that I got myself educated into the business. But then I got into too much education, right? I wasn't taking enough action, because it took me about 11 months to get my first deal, obviously.
Right.
Meanwhile, I was still working, doing plumbing, construction, because I just didn't know what to do. So I ended up just taking a construction job that I had been there for about 3.5 years. So,
right.
Yeah.
So then when you quit, let's talk about that story, because you shared that with me. So you tried to quit. So you were making how much?
I was making like $22 an hour.
And then the day you said, hey, I'm quitting.
Yeah, so obviously, well, here's my plan, right? Everybody that wants to do something in life, it's sometimes it's scary to take that jump, right? And sometimes you always want to have that safety net. So me, I'm the type of person, and my wife is watching. God bless her heart. I love you. She's very understanding when I want to do something, and she has a lot of confidence in me. So what I did was, hey, you know what? Instead of me taking this full jump, let me put a safety net. Mm-hmm. I went to Craigslist and I saw your ad, which was, I think it was like August 2018 or July, or 2016, sorry.
Yep.
July 2016, called you, interviewed with you. And then so I went back and I told the owner of the company, which, we were really cool with him. So I told him, hey, man, you know what? I got a great opportunity in real estate. I think I'm going to take the jump. I can't let this pass. And he's like, why? What's going on? Why do you want to, what can I do to keep you here? He's like, you're one of my best crews. And so I said, honestly, I don't know at this point. My mind's made up. He's like, what if I give you $5 more an hour? And it was, it's pretty, like, for a person that's been working hourly wage, for a very long time, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Like, the guy hit me where he knew it was going to hurt. So now that wasn't the end. So I didn't tell him no, so I wouldn't disrespect him there. So I said, you know what, politely, I said, let me think about it. Now I got to drive home and sell this to my wife, right? I got to tell her that, hey, babe, they just offered me $5 an hour. And I'm gonna tell them that I don't want it. So, anyways, that was I had to sell basically on my drive home, I had to figure out how to tell her that, and got home, and obviously, I told her what was going on, and she's like, well, what are you gonna do? So we talked about it. We're good. Went back the next day, and I told him no, and so that's how I think 2 weeks later I started with you. So
right,
yeah.
So then
that was 2016 when I started with you in August.
Yeah,
August 2016.
So your first wholesale deal.
So first wholesale deal was I was still doing marketing when I came on with you, even when I was working. That's the thing. So all that 2016, I was doing a lot of marketing. I got pictures too as well. They can go on my Facebook. I was writing letters on my kitchen table. I had my kids put the letters in the envelopes, put the stamps on the letters. I had my son go out with me at night, putting out bandit signs. So there was no excuse, right? Like I knew that this is what I was going to do, and this is what was going to push me to the goals that I needed to get to. So then when I came to work with you, I was still doing some of those things, but the deal came from a referral at my wife's job. Because at that point, I was pretty confident. I was away from construction. I was already talking to a lot of people when I was, your inside sales agent. So I told her, like, hey, make sure you tell everybody I buy real estate. I had about one house in my life besides my personal residence. So the deal came through. It was one of our coworkers. It was a condo up on 28th Avenue in Peoria. So this thing, they owned it for about 3 years, paying the mortgage on it, vacant. They had tore it up a year before to fix it up. But they weren't able to have the money. So we got that deal, locked it up, and then sold it like in 2 weeks. That first deal made $11,200 on that one.
So let's walk through that, right?
Yep.
So you started in 16. How long from when you're like, all right, I'm going to start doing this, till you locked up your first deal?
So even though I went to the event on October 2015, right, Sean Terry's, I didn't really take a lot of action. Again, I went into analysis paralysis because I wanted to learn the business, right? I wanted to learn not so much perfection, because you got to take action in order for you to understand the ins and outs and the logistics of everything. But honestly, when I made my mind up to do it, I really wanted to learn, listening to podcasts, books, everything. So I didn't really start taking action probably to about, I want to say like February and March of 2016. So you're talking, and then the deal happened in October.
Yeah.
So that's a stretch of like 10 months or something.
Right. And I think that's something that, everyone here that's listening, is that it's not, you don't just flip a switch and it's easy.
Yeah, definitely not. You're going to go through a lot of tests. You're going to have to, it's not easy, honestly.
So you took 9-10 months, and then Carlos just posted something, 6 months, 2,400 bandit signs.
Right. So,
sometimes it's darkest right before dawn. Yeah.
So I will say this. I did contract one property in between, but I wasn't able to sell it. Yeah. So I had to cancel the contract. Of course, the seller was pretty pissed off at me, and but that actually, and honestly, that was the only contract I ever canceled ever since. Yeah. One contract only ever since I've been doing this.
So we talk about Phoenix is the wholesale capital of the world, or if it's not top, it's definitely top 3. Without a doubt, we're the guru capital of the world.
Yeah, definitely, man.
So how is our operation different than our local friends and competitors?
Different. I think we like, well, especially with me, right? I'm big hands-on, coming from the work ethic that I've learned all through my childhood. Obviously, I'm really hands-on with everybody. Like, I want to make sure our team is doing really well. I want to make sure that that's probably somewhat of a separator from where people have like VAs, people have try to outsource a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's helped our business quite a bit because we're big hands-on with our acquisition guys, right? They're in office, they come in. I mean, we have training on Mondays we have our morning huddles. We have a text group, like what do I respond to this person. So, but the thing that's helped us out a lot is that we're big on self-development. Yeah. I think that's the separator for us. Because we're sending text messages, we're doing the ringless voicemails, right? We're doing the cold calling as well. We're buying data just like everybody else. But I think for us, the difference is the self-development and investing in our sales training.
Right.
I think that's where we separate ourselves from everyone else. And we're basically going out to the appointments as well, where most people aren't going out to the appointments. And honestly, it's helped us all out too on our spreads, which is great.
Yeah. So I think there's two things, right? There's the we're willing to go to the appointments physically, which is just there's two different schools of thought, right? You can do more virtually.
Right.
But in this market, it's pretty competitive, so we choose to go in person. But the other thing too is we don't have VAs.
Yeah, correct.
Our front guys are the ones booking the appointments and going to the appointments with you.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So Willie Coleman wants to know, how many text messages do you guys send a day?
A day. So right now we ramped it up. I mean, we're sending about, so I would say a week we're sending about 8,000 text messages about a week. So whatever that comes out.
So a little over 1,000 a day.
Yeah, a little over 1,000 a day.
We do primarily weekdays, right?
Yeah, weekdays. That's it. Monday through Friday. We have a very unique system. So we have templates that, they're not auto reply, but our guys can answer on the fly. We pretty much dictate the conversation. We basically not control, but we make the conversation go to where we want it to go.
Right.
To make sure that we're talking to either we're going to disqualify or qualify based off the questions that we ask them.
Or orchestrating the conversation.
Yeah, orchestrating the conversation. That's the word. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And then a great question here from our buddy Donald Ross. What's up, Donald? What tool can you not live without?
What tool can we not live without? That's a hard question, man. In this day and age with systems, I mean,
would say, and what's our best? What are we using for Podio?
Well, Beast Mode CRM, obviously, right? Because you have to track. That is a tool that you definitely need to have that CRM, and we use Beast Mode CRM.
Yeah.
Without it, honestly, there's no way you could track your KPIs. You can't track your leads. So yeah, definitely that would be the biggest one, anyways. Yeah. Live without. I mean, obviously we need all of them, but the big one is that one. Yeah. Yep.
So how much of our business is wholesale, and how much of it's flipping?
I think wholesaling is like 90%, right? I want to say.
Yeah.
95 maybe.
Definitely as percentage of profits. It's definitely 95. Flipping sucks.
We're not big fix and flip, so
we're not good at flipping.
We're not that good. Even though in 2017 we did quite a bit of fix and flips, but it was weird because it was all subbed out and stuff.
Yeah.
When I was on my own, but yeah, I still didn't. I'm not that good at fix and flipping,
man. So what does our organization look like today?
So there's you and I, obviously, right? And then we have 3 acquisition guys, which is Miguel, and then Ruben and Nestor.
Yeah.
I think at one point we were 9 total.
We had 9 callers for a minute.
Yeah, locally, here locally, we had 9 callers. Got a little crazy, obviously, because you have to try to figure out, make sure that they all have everything in hand and to be able to be successful. But narrowing it down now, I think it's gotten it's a lot better because now we can focus on training, focus on making sure that the guys are everybody's following the process to a T, and it's been very good.
We're pouring our time into the right 3 people.
And then obviously we have our title company, and then we have our transaction coordinator, which helps out a lot, man, with you.
Yeah. So we got 3 dialers who are also on the phones handling the returns for the RVMs and the text messages.
Correct.
And then you are basically acquisition and disposition.
Yeah, in a way. And Disposition's actually gotten a little simpler with our relationships that we built.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit about our disposition process.
Yep.
So Sejan Bhakta wants to know, what's our most profitable lead source?
As of right now, it's been code violations.
Yeah.
Yeah, code violations, I have to say, As far as the most deals, no, but as far as the spreads, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So code violations, we get those through the city.
Correct. Yeah, they go to City Hall, and then I think make sure if you're here in Phoenix, you go to City Hall. You have to have the right change, $12.50, or else you're not gonna get the service. You have to have the exact same change.
Is there any specialty in our organization?
Specialty? I don't understand that question.
Is there anything we specialize in? I think we just do everything, right? I mean, I would say including even we download the entire counties.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think
there's
there's not, honestly. I mean, we've gotten quite a bit of deals from just a general list. Again, going back to the original question, like what makes us different, I think it's all about our self-development and sales training, honestly. We can hit every list we want, and we can dictate and, make deals out of lists that people wouldn't even, not make them, but deals happen from lists that people wouldn't even touch.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's that where we talk about sales is a slight edge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So then we talk about finding deals. So we talked about code violations. What are the other lead sources that we like?
So we do code violation, tax default, and then we have pre-foreclosure, obviously, and then we have absentee owners as well, and then high equity. High equity is just like a general list.
Yeah.
So yeah. Pretty much.
And then we also have that blanket list.
Yeah, the blanket list.
Just everybody. I'm sorry. If you live in Maricopa County, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you live in Maricopa County, and it's funny because I'll meet with Jesse and Evo, and then they'll play like our RVM. Annie will. She's like, "You're sending me. I keep getting your RVMs."
See, I keep getting Jared's. I get freaking. Hi, this is Alex. Okay, so then pulling data. Where are we pulling data from?
So we were pulling most of our data from like Property Radar.
Mm-hmm.
I think we pulled the smallest from Listsource, Monsoon, which is tax records here locally, Rebo Gateway. But when we partnered up with Jesse, right, on buying that general list.
Yeah.
So we haven't pulled data from any source lately. But Evo is actually coming out with a data source. So if you guys know Evo, reach out to him. So he's coming out with his own data source, which is going to have vacants, pre-foreclosures, unknown equity. So if anybody's looking for a list, I think we just pulled 3 lists from there. So we're getting the numbers back today.
My favorite category on that list was seniors that have two level houses.
Yeah.
Come on, Evo. That's where we pulled data. Where were we skip tracing?
We use batch skip tracing.
Right.
Yeah.
So guys, make sure you put RED for your code to get the best pricing.
Yep.
All right, so we're talking about that. So KPI. So Daniel Perito wants to know, what are the KPIs that we track?
It's a lot of them, right? I think we've just added more to as well. I mean, it's quite a bit, but our general is dial attempts, conversations. That's for our cold calling side, conversations, and then I think the one is what is it? Contacts. So dial attempts, contacts, conversations. And then appointments face-to-face. That's on our cold call side.
First face-to-face.
First face-to-face, yeah. I mean, and I think we have a large list. I would have to go in and look at it. Right. Yeah, it's pretty long.
Yeah, so there's initial face-to-face, and then there's contracts, leads, and then we have cost per lead.
Yeah, cost per lead.
Leads per transaction. And so those are a very high-level list.
Well, we use Traction too as well to keep track. So
Traction, if you guys haven't read the book Traction, it's an amazing book. And then we use Traction Tools. It's a software that's approved by Traction.
Mm-hmm.
So Max and I, we have our our level 10 meeting every Monday morning. Yeah. Okay, so buyers list, so Disposition. So this is an interesting topic because a couple of people have actually reached out to me. It's like, you never talk about Disposition on the show. Like, which I should, because I own the freaking app. Anyhow. Our disposition process is kind of funny. So let's talk about A, the ideal process, and then B, what actually happens.
So the ideal process is, you lock up the contract, obviously open up escrow, and then we would put in the app.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we do is we reach out to like our top 10 buyers by phone, text, or whatever. We give it a couple of days. If none of them responds, typically we'll reach out to Keighley, for them to blast it out.
The biggest disposition.
Yeah, correct. Keighley,
in town.
If you guys are in town and you got properties you can't move, reach out to Keighley. They're pretty good about moving properties. What's been happening lately with these last 9 deals, before I even put them on I haven't put any of those deals in our app because they've been selling through people reaching out through Instagram, which is crazy. Crazy. So that one on Friday, it was even sold before I even got done with it. As soon as I posted the walkthrough video, I had 3 people reach out. One of them already had the earnest money in hand.
Right.
So, yeah.
So if you guys are in wholesale and you guys are not on Instagram, you guys are definitely leaving money on the table. So
here's what I would say, though, for that, because it sounds real simple, right? Like, just record it. So you have to, I know I don't have the most followers, but I have the right followers. Yeah. And that's what matters.
Yeah.
Quality. Yeah, quality followers. And so that didn't happen overnight, right? And so those followers that I have, even though it's not in the thousands, those are I'm happy with those followers I have, because those are the ones that are looking at my stuff. Those are the ones that are making, they're buyers, they're buying. And obviously our friend Pace, he's our number one buyer. Yeah. So, and we got Ramon as well too. But we've had other people reach out to us through the app, through Instagram. So we haven't even used the OfferFast app.
And so if people is like, send me your deals. It's like, no, you got to follow Max on Instagram. That's what we're sending. We're selling our stores on Instagram stories right now. So definitely follow Max Jimenez. Max Jimenez ERA or just Max Jimenez?
Max Jimenez _ ERA.
Yeah. So Pace wants to know appointments, 1 or 2 people?
2.
Yeah. Why?
So 2 people is good. We found out that you can. So what we do is, before we go to the appointment, we do a pre-appointment plan, right? Mm-hmm. Like, here's what you're gonna say, here's what I'm gonna say, so we can bounce off ideas, and then we say you're gonna take the lead, right? We talk about it. So once we show up to the property, because usually Miguel is or Nestor or Ruben are the ones booking the appointment. Mm-hmm. So they're the point of contact. But while they're contacting them, they're edifying, which would be me, right? The acquisition guy. Oh, Max is my partner. He's gonna come. He always goes out to the appointment with me. So if you have VAs or whatever, you have VAs or people that are cold calling, but you have acquisitions, you want them to edify your acquisition guy. You want them to tell him, like, he's going to show up, he's going to talk to you about this, certain things. So we go out, why 2 people? We go out and we can bounce off. So if he's talking to that person and the seller is saying something to him, then I can catch and I'm ready to basically answer that question. If the seller's talking to me, I'll look at Miguel, Ruben, or Nestor, and then they'll think about what to say next. So it always helps out to bounce out ideas. I wouldn't recommend 3 people because now it looks like you're gonna jump them.
I just realized that we talked about the lead sources, but we haven't talked about the channels. So we talk about RVMs. Mm-hmm. So RVMs, text blasting, and cold calling. Yeah, correct. Right? Those are our 3 primary.
3 primary.
Okay, so cold calling. What program are we using for cold calling?
So right now we're using Call Tools. So that's the program that we're currently using, Call Tools, with Chase. He's the one that hooked us up and set us up on it.
And then as far as not skip tracing, RVMs.
RVM, we're using batch voice leads. Yeah. So we're using that's another program from Jesse and Evo. So we're using that one.
And then for text blasting.
So text blasting, we're testing a program right now that we've been using. It's a little expensive, obviously, right? Text Magic, but I will say this is I talked to Evo yesterday. They are working on something, and I think they're able to set some people on a temporary program until they get theirs out. But we've been using Text Magic. We like it. It has an app. But I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to them. It'll be a lot cheaper than what we're paying.
Yeah, we're definitely paying more, but the cool things we have in there is they can text within the app.
Mm-hmm. There's an app.
And then we've got the templates in there. So,
correct. I think we're up to like 30 templates. So
so there's only like a handful of questions you're going to get.
Yeah.
So you just pick one of the templates.
Yeah, it's always that's a very good point. So most people get confused, but it's always the same. They're looking for that same answer. They just word it differently. Yeah. So the templates help us to kind of like, gear that. Is that the real question that you're asking?
Yep.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite responses, one of our favorite templates in there is, so you're text blasting, 8,000 people a week. Yeah. You're gonna get some people like, I don't know you. You're just texting. Right. I don't know you're for real.
Right.
And then you ask, well, what do you need to see?
Yeah. So we say, so fair enough. I know this text is out of the blue. Just out of curiosity, what would you need to see to feel comfortable that I'm a legitimate buyer?
And then the typical answer, proof of funds, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And you say.
And then we say, sounds great, fair enough. Once I provide that information, what happens next?
Yeah. And so I think that's great because for us, the challenge that I've always had is that I'm so eager to please and satisfy that I was like, oh, you need proof of funds, you need this and that. Let me go ahead and send you these 3 things, and you email it to them, and then silence.
Yeah, correct. So you just wasted your time. So.
Right. So you're doing extra work for less return. So what we have for our text blast is, let's pretend I do these things. You get these things. You're satisfied. What happens next?
Yeah.
We just skip that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so sometimes they're like, well, we can talk. So when they say that, like, because sometimes they'll do a simple reply, then we'll talk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. So let's get on. I'm gonna have my acquisition guy call you, or when would be a great time to have the acquisition guy call you?
Yeah.
See, we don't go into like, okay, what's your email so we can send it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get them on the phone to see if they're truly motivated.
Yeah. So Eva wants to know what you're doing to still look like you're in your 20s.
I took a screenshot of that question. I sent it to my wife. She started laughing. I don't do anything, man. I just I don't drink. I don't stay up late. I don't drink any alcohol, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Bryant Applis, one of our buddies as well, wants to know what's the biggest impacting of working or partnering up with me.
That's a good question. So most people think that, partnering up with somebody, it's going to automatically be like a hit, right? Mm-hmm. And then, especially you have a lot of a presence, with the podcast and stuff. So a lot of people think it's like, oh man, he's got it easier. Or, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I might be thinking too much, but the impact is like growth, right? Like we help each other out. Yep. Like honestly, develop. If there's questions that I have, I've grown a lot in the last year. Obviously, mm-hmm. From you becoming a mentor to me, and I've learned a lot. And I think we kind of bounce off each other ideas, and we both have grown in that way. Yeah. Yeah. So
I think the big thing, Bryant, is that I hate partnerships overall. I mean, that's just you guys have heard me say that multiple times.
Right.
But with Max, we complement each other really well. You know, my strengths, maybe something that Max is missing, and likewise, my weaknesses, Max covers them up.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the other question Prito has is what took us from 2 to 4 months to 9.
Honestly, man, he knows. He's been in the class. I mean, it's development. Sales. You have to stick with the development, the sales process. I think that's been a game changer for us because we were still doing the same things. We mm-hmm. were still sending out texts. We were still cold calling. We were still basically RVM, dropping RVMs. We were still doing the same things. But what changed that took us from there to where we're at now, it really is the self-development, the sales, a new sales process, implementing it, getting the team to buy into it. That's mm-hmm. a big part because you as a leader, you as the main guy can buy into that process. But if your team doesn't buy into it, then there's no use. So that's what's been really the change is our whole culture has now evolved around that sales training that we do. So
they follow it. And so I think, the guys obviously are very very big fan of you. They love it.
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite books was Good Leaders Ask Great Questions by John Maxwell. Mm-hmm. And the 3 questions you have to be able to answer in the affirmative is, do you care about me?
Yeah.
Can I trust you? And will you do what's best for me when I'm not looking, when I'm not around?
Yeah.
And I think wholeheartedly all our guys can answer 100% in the affirmative.
So here's the thing, and this is not something that I always strive for is everybody that comes around me, whether they're with us for a long time, whether they've been around me, I always try to make sure that everybody leaves better. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I strive for. And anybody that's been part of our team in the past or that comes around me, always, if they could leave a little bit better than when they came with us or whatever, or came around me, I'm like 100% satisfied, man. That's where I get my satisfaction, man, all right, look, he's doing really good. At least I didn't ruin that person.
It's like Dave Ramsey said, heart of a servant.
Yeah, correct.
Right? Yep. You want to find a heart of a teacher, heart of a servant.
Yep.
Brian Sammons wants to know what percentage of our leads are coming from RVM, cold calling, and text blast.
I think RVMs are low right now. I think RVM, and I don't know the exact percentages, but I can tell you that text and cold calling are pretty hand in hand right now. Yeah, RVM for some reason has slowed down. I think that has to do with everybody doing the calls.
Everybody's doing RVM.
Yeah, so we were getting a lot of we were getting quite a bit of leads in the beginning of the year, and then all of a sudden it started to dry up a little bit. So, mm-hmm. but text and cold call has been the best. Yep.
Pace wants to know if you had a time machine, would you go back and do over?
Wow, that's a very crazy question. And actually I was thinking about this, I don't know what I would go back do over. It's a hard question to ask on the spot, right? Obviously we go through life for different reasons, right? I mean, my upbringing was not the best, grew up very poor, went to 9 different schools. Yeah, from first grade to ninth grade. I mean, honestly, in high school was the only time that I went through, to 9th and 10th grade. But even then, I was already ditching school. I was doing this. So, I don't know if I would have not went through the experience if I would be here right now. Honestly, when I turned 16 and 17, I got really heavy into drugs and stuff. So that would be probably one thing that I would probably try to figure out. Yeah, so from when I was 16 all the way up to like 19 before I met my wife, dude, I was lost. Like, I would stay up for like 3-4 days. I mean, I was pretty bad. If that would be the one thing, probably that. But it goes back to your upbringing, right? My mom let me do whatever I want. I mean, I was out. I would come home midnight. I was 14 coming home and at midnight, 1 o'clock. So, again, I didn't have really a stable house to.
So why were you offended? My comment the other day.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would probably be the only thing I would change. That just because that kind of put me behind. But here's the thing, though. Even though I was in that situation, my cousin who owns a flooring business, so it was crazy because I hated working for him because, he was my cousin outside of work, but when we go to work, it was like he put the whip. But that's where I learned my work ethic from my cousin working those 4 or 5 years. He's like, you know what? You're not doing crap in school. You're going to work. So I did floor covering. So, but even then, through that time, so I never really got like stole anything or got into gangs. Actually, it was always hard work, but I did get heavy into using drugs, and it was pretty bad. But yeah, man.
That's why you don't drink?
That's why. That's part of it, yeah. And, when I met my wife, I was pretty rough, so I'm kind of blessed to have my wife. But that would be the only thing I think that I would want to change, just to see what the outcome would be of that. Yep.
Daryl Banks wants to know what is in the text message.
What is like the first initial?
The first initial text?
That's funny. That's a great question because people always think it's something special, right? Like, what are you saying? And honestly, it's not. It's like, hey, Steve, this is Max. We're buying a couple more houses in the area. You wouldn't consider selling 123 Main Street in Phoenix. It's simple as that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no magic language. There's no like perfect word that you could say. It's either it's that, and if they're a lead that's going to sell to you, they're going to respond. Even if they're not, they're still going to respond like, no, thank you, F you, whatever, you're going to get those responses. But as far as the initial message, there's no like special words that you can put on there.
I think it's everything after the initial text message.
Yeah, everything after, correct. Yeah.
Ismail Lopez wants to know how do you know when someone's the right fit bringing onto the team?
That is a great question. I think they have to fit your culture, and they have to fit what your going back to what I was saying earlier. Everybody has to buy in what you're doing. That's the thing. They have to fit your culture and then buy in what you're doing to be able to make it work and for them to be able to succeed. Granted, not everybody stays with you, but those that want to grow, and we're pretty blessed right now to have these guys that we have now.
Awesome dudes.
Yeah, great, awesome dude. They bought into the culture. They bought into the, into what we're doing. So hopefully, cross our fingers, that they stay with us for a while. So.
Right. Culture fit is a really important thing.
Yeah.
So Ismail, like, I've taken a lot of personal development, and one of the things that Darren Hardy talks about a lot is culture. So if you want to have the hardest workers, leaders got to be a hard worker.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want everyone to be personally developed, leaders got to be personally developed. If you want the people to be good at sales, leaders got to be good at sales. So you just have to be the best version of yourself. And if you are, then you attract other people that want to hang around.
Yeah, and I can add something to that too. So one of the things that I do with our team right now is that I'm not perfect, right? And I don't know everything, and I don't ever try to act like I know everything. Because what happens is I'm a learner at heart, so I'm always learning, I'm always developing. But if I don't know something, I'm not gonna act like I know it, and I tell them like, hey guys, I don't know everything, so don't expect me to have all the answers, but I'll for sure find it.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah.
And then Ramon wants to know, where do you see MCO in 2 years?
Good question. I think you and I kind of talked about this, right? Where do I see MCO in 2 years? Obviously, we want to. So here's what I want to be, what I want to see, and what we want MCO to be at. A consistency, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody can knock off, these big deals. Everybody can knock off, one big, check. I want to have I want MCO to be a consistent machine to where we're pumping out those 9 to 10 deals. And we're going to do it here locally, honestly, man. That's our goal, to be here locally. We're not looking to expand right now. We're not looking to go into other markets. I think as we get better, I think we're going to be pretty good. So that's I want to see that consistency. We want to be consistent always, right? We don't want to come onto this podcast and be like, oh, we did 9 deals, and the next month is like, we only did 2 or 1. Mm-hmm. So that in 2 years, I know 2 years far. I don't know. Do you have something to add on that?
I would say if we had our guys, they were able to do 3 to 4 deals consistently.
Yeah.
And they can live the lives that they want to live. That's pretty much it.
Right, correct.
Right. So that's it's the serving those around you.
So yeah, and that's the other thing too. Give back, right? Like help people, and because I know when I first started, I would reach out to people and they would help out. So yeah.
And there are those that don't.
There are those that don't. I agree.
So Willie wants to know, how are we building out the team right now?
I think we have the team pretty much built, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we're looking to add anybody else. The only thing I could say that we could add is like a leads manager.
Yeah.
That's one thing. When my problem is that, because lead is the data is the bloodline of your business, right? Mm-hmm. So I pretty much handle that right now. Doing the leads and everything. So I'm very picky man on who would do that. But we have our guys that we have right now. I think I don't know if adding one more person would be somewhat of a slow us down a little bit, but I'm pretty happy where we're at. Maybe add a leads manager. That's about it. Yeah.
And so I would say that people are finding us and they're asking to join us. So you just got to be real. And you gotta let everyone know your story, right? So you gotta be on Instagram, you gotta be on Facebook.
Oh, okay. I see what I say. So he said, how does he build his team out?
How do you find people? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So most of our guys. So Ruben came to the meetup, right? Mm-hmm. And he already had been following us on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Miguel, I think, also came to the meetup as well too, right? So meetups are good, and I think Daniel reached out to me through Instagram when he was with us. Daniel was a killer, man. He's a sniper.
Yeah,
so shout out to Daniel if you're watching, man. He went out and opened up his dealership. I know that was his dream since he was 18. So, but he reached out through Instagram. So they're all over. The thing is that you have to give them a chance, and at the same time be able to provide that value for them to grow, to see if they develop into that position.
Yeah.
So
and Nestor came as a referral from Peter,
right?
Who came to our meetup.
Correct. And make sure that you hire full-time, please.
Yeah, we made that mistake. Edgar Rios wants to know, do you use LeadSource to get leads?
LeadSource?
Mm-hmm.
We've used it in the past, but no, we haven't.
And Rosara, no, we don't hire VAs outside of the country.
No VAs. We did that early 2018. It was pretty,
They were really good when they listened, when they followed instructions. But
yeah, that was our biggest problem with our VAs. Maybe we had the wrong ones. I don't know, but I was even involved with them, training them, doing the script. But then the next day, you go back to listen to the record. It's like, you're pulling your hair out. Like, what happened?
So Ruben asked this on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
How did we end up being business partners? So why don't you go ahead and tell your side of the story, and then I'll tell them the truth.
Sure. So going back to what I was saying about coming to work with you in 2016 of August, I was there for 3 months, and then I got my first wholesale deal, and then I came to you. I was like, I'm gone. Steve face dropped. He's like, what?
Yeah.
I was his best. What is it? ISA. So inside sales agent. So I was killing it on the phones. So I got my first deal, and I told Steve, I'm going to do this full time. So thank you for the opportunity. So went through that whole year. Did a lot of business in 2017 with a local cash buyer. Basically, we did a lot of flips. So the wholesaling side kind of went down a little bit. We did a couple of flips. And then so starting early 2018, I started to go out on my own. It was weird how it happened. I was at a Starbucks getting ready to prepare to my game plan to start going on my own completely. And then you call me. I think you called me. You're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, not much. Just sitting here at Starbucks. And you said you want to go to lunch.
Yeah.
So then that's when we went to Oregano's or whatever it was. We met. Yeah. So February, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know exactly when. I know we firmed up our partnership a year ago.
Yeah,
this month.
Correct.
So Max was an ISA. So you guys know I own a brokerage and I got a real estate team, and we've run a pretty successful traditional real estate business. We've done over 100 transactions through the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And so we were hiring an inside sales agent, and Max replied to our Craigslist ad, brought him in, did the meeting, and convinced him to work with me. He's like, yeah, I just got to make sure this makes sense. Got to go quit my job.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I guess this isn't going to work out.
So just quick tip. So when I called the number, this is how I got Steve to call me. I said, hey, I'm just looking for an opportunity. If I don't work out in 30 days, you can fire me. And I could swear you called me like 5 minutes later.
So Max had to go figure out, and that's when he had to quit, and he had to convince his wife that it made sense to work with me as an avenue to build his business. And I was already wholesaling at that time. So Max came on, and he was calling my pay-per-click leads, distressed sellers.
Yeah.
And so he was getting not only calling buyer leads, but also calling motivated seller leads, which is what we work with now.
Mm-hmm.
And so after about 3 months, got your first deal.
Yeah.
And then you went off on your own, and we just kept in touch. And on Facebook, predominantly, I could see what Max is doing. He could see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just reached out to him. I said, look, you're doing this. I'm doing this.
Right.
Why don't we just join forces? And about a month and a half of negotiations later, we partnered up.
Yeah.
April of 2018.
Yeah, the rest is history, man.
Yep.
We're here.
Richard Norua wants to know how many cold call leads to a deal.
I don't have all the KPIs in front of us.
Well, I did, so I pulled it.
Okay.
So the big thing is we qualify leads probably differently, or maybe not differently, but our way of qualifying a lead. Right? Yeah. What's the how do we determine a lead?
So the way we determine if it's a lead or not is obviously there's the 4 pillars, right? Mm-hmm. So we're looking for pain, either pain or motivation, time frame, and price. Price is always the last thing. Yeah. So we want to make sure that they have the pain. Is there enough pain there for them to even consider our solution, or do we need to refer them? Maybe they're thinking more like traditional or something. Sometimes you don't see the pain. There's motivation. Like some people just want to have that that set date to close. They want to have that what is it called? For sure, you know what I mean? Like certainty. Yeah, that's the word. And so those are the things that we look for. We have certain questions that we ask, obviously, to make sure they fit into that. So and if they do, then it becomes a lead. We go for the appointment. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and to answer your question, right? If we got 7 people that fit those criteria or willing to meet with us, we'll close 1 in 7. Mm-hmm. It'd be nicer if it was a higher percentage, but 1 in 7.
Right.
It's what we'll take. So what markets are you in?
Phoenix.
That's it.
Phoenix. No plans on expanding. We're not going, we're not going to go to any markets. We've thought about it before, but no.
Yeah. And so there's this constant distraction, and we have a lot of friends throughout the country who are asking us like, hey, move over here, or they reach out to us like, hey, I'll be your boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. And it's just no thanks. We don't need any more distractions.
Yep, exactly.
So Pace wants to know, why do we use Magnus Title?
Because they're the best, Pace. Come on.
Yeah, get it together, Pace. If Kerry can handle our deals and can handle Keegley's deals, then it should be good enough for most other wholesalers.
Exactly. Actually, we've never had one. Well, because of them, anyways. Because of Magnus Title, we've never had an issue. Yeah. I mean, obviously, every deal has their own issue, but
lots of headaches.
Yeah. But any issues because of the title company, we've had zero. You know? Yeah.
And then Edgar wants to know, how much do we all spend in leads / skip tracing a month?
We run pretty lean. I think we're a little bit over like 4,500 or something.
Yeah. It's really low. I mean, we're spending call tools is under $100 a week. We're spending, was it 300 a
350
week?
I think a week on text.
Yeah,
and RVM's like another $250.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, not that much, guys.
Yeah, again, and so that's the great thing about, I keep saying this, that the different differentiator is the sales training and buying into the culture, the guys all into believing into what we're training them with, and how, and they're applying it too, to the T, and they ask a lot of questions, so that's why our conversion rate's pretty, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And then I saw a question this morning in the Go Giver group, which is run by Brandon Simmons. It's the best mastermind, in my opinion. Virtual or in person for wholesaling, seller appointments?
So virtual, you're able to do a lot more. So, right, if you're looking for volume, probably virtual would be, it's a good way to go. Mm-hmm. And I think I was having a conversation with somebody about this on the last meetup. And so But I think your spreads are a little less than if you go belly, if you go to the appointment. So we found out, and it's quite a big difference, like almost 10 to 12 grand difference.
Yeah.
So I prefer face-to-face because of that.
Yeah.
So I prefer going out to the appointment.
And I think it's just two different schools of thought. You know, if you're in multiple states, virtual is awesome.
Right. Oh, yeah, you have to. I mean, yeah, exactly.
But for us, we're happy in Phoenix. And I think the other thing we talk about is the guys that are doing virtual are getting the lowest hanging fruit, and they're just outspending us, which is totally fine.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
We're happy getting the second lowest hanging fruit.
So what virtual does, so I'll share the story of the appointment that we went to. So we had a lead, and we could have probably locked it up on the phone. The guy was, I think he wanted 185 at the time. So we were like, look, we don't know if we can do the 185. Let us come out to the property. You know, obviously we went out to the property and we ended up getting it for like $25,000 less when we went out to the property. That's a big difference when you're talking about a wholesale deal, you know, because that could include, you know, your either some repairs for the end buyer or adjustments or you know, your fee. You know, so you go from making a $5,000-$6,000 fee to now a $12,000-$13,000 assignment fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you guys are doing it virtually in town, we apologize. If you're calling them after we've gone through there, we set some landmines behind us.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So Friday, the deal we got Friday, which I don't think you counted for, but Miguel got. Anyways, he did the appointment. We went out. The guy, the seller had 2 more appointments after us, but we built so good rapport with him. You know, we listened to what he wanted, you know, what he wanted to accomplish, what his goals was. And so it was weird because, so we even showed him the contract. Like this guy was fidgety and nervous, and here's the contract, here's what it says. And, you know, and so he went to his phone, he was doing something, and then he goes, you know what? I just canceled the other 2 people that were coming after you. Right. And I said, oh, okay, great.
All right. The landmines are huge.
Yeah.
And then Rosero wants to know, as a broker, you okay with agents being a wholesaler? 100%. I don't treat our agents as agents. I treat them as business owners. Jesse Burrell wants to know how important is surrounding yourself with the right people.
Very important. That's a mistake I did when I first started, you know, because here's what happens, and it happens to all of us, right? I've never had a business background. I've never was around people with money. You know, my perception of money was always like, turn off the lights, or, you know, hey, you know, don't leave the light on, or, you know, are you going to finish that, or, you know, things like that. So coming into the business world, that's what holds a lot of people back, is the mindset, right? And it's a mistake that I did when I first started. I didn't network fast enough. I didn't network enough or fast enough. So when you get into the business, I know you have to be very careful now. Nowadays it's a little different than when I got into it in 2015, because there's
a lot easier now.
Yeah, so you have to reach out, especially start local. Like, reach out to your local guys, find out who the real players are, find out who, you know, who's the ones doing the real deals. And, you know, and if people have a problem with you asking them questions about, you know, whether they're doing deals or not, then you walk away from them right away. Yeah. But going back to Jesse's question, I mean, in the last 12 months, honestly, that's what's really changed our business and really changed myself too. Just surrounding yourself with the people who are smarter than you, people who know a lot more than you. You know, just because they're gonna help you. How is it? There's no stupid questions, only stupid people, right? So that's the thing, is that you want to be done for a little bit, not forever. And so, and I'm not fault of that. You know, I put myself in there first because I didn't do this quick enough, you know. And that goes back to our perception, our mindset, you know, growing up. Again, dude, I had no stability. I mean, going to 9 different schools all through my elementary years, and, you know, growing up in the situation I did, you know, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew I wanted to be something. I wanted to do something. And so, but it took a while. But yeah, your network is very important. You know, now we can pick up the phone, and again, you know, we're selling our properties on Instagram just from those people, you know. Yeah. They're very grateful for those people. I mean, Jesse, he's helped us out a lot, you know, in our business. Him and Evo and Annie, I mean, they've been a very important, crucial part, you know, of helping us systemize. They sped up our sped up our process. So it's very important for those that are starting out. Network with those locally that are there locally with you as fast as you can, and weed out the flakes right away. Yeah. So that was what I would recommend. Very important.
And just to add to that, what I've talked to Jesse offline about this is that things are great today, but it can change instantly. And it's really important to be surrounding yourself with the right people who are going to figure it out.
Right, correct. No, definitely.
And then Ramon wants to know, what's the weirdest thing you found inside a distressed home?
The weirdest thing I found inside a distressed home, I can't say a dead body, but dead cats, man. Holy smokes. Yeah, we bought one I think it was early 2018 before I partnered up with you. And so I walk up to the appointment, and the guy's sitting outside, and this guy was, I mean, he was huge, you know. So I walk up, I don't know what's going on. So he's outside, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? I presented myself, and he's like, oh, I'm doing great. He goes, the house is right there if you want to go look at it. I'm like, this does not sound good. Door open, back door open. And so as soon as I start walking up to the house, I get the stench, man, of cats. I mean, cat pee, everything. I was like, before I went in the door, I looked back at him. I'm like, are you sure I can? He's like, yeah, go ahead, look at it. I'll wait for you out here. So I walk in, and the first thing when I walk into the house, dead cat on my left side. I'm like, oh, so I walked in, I pulled my shirt over my nose, and I started going, and it was 2-bedroom house with the one bathroom. One of the rooms was closed with a TV blasting, like it was loud. Oh, and he told me before I went in, don't go in that last room on your left. I was like, I'm good, I won't go into it. So then I walked the house, I opened up the back door, and there was a dead cat on a chair. There was a dead cat on my left side. Yeah, it was horrible, man. I don't know if I'd say interesting, but that was the worst house I ever walked into. I don't think our buddy Pace would have been able to survive that house because I think he's allergic to cats.
I think he would have found a way. If there's money involved, Pace would have found a way.
Probably, yeah. He would have sent his crew.
What is the greatest attribute that we see in each other? So I'll start with you.
Always pushing to get better, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I admire from you. Obviously, is you're always finding ways how we can get better, including with our training, sales training. I mean, your leadership skills as well too has helped us a lot, and even to this day, I mean, we still, our team and myself, we still consult like, what should we do here, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's the biggest attribute I see. You're always looking how to get better and self-develop, because I think you and I spoke about this when we first met. Was we were big both on self-development.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and you were light years ahead of me. So even to this day, that's the one thing I see.
Yeah, I got no problem spending on personal development. And for me, so when I started with Max, there are a couple of attributes I liked a lot, but there was one that always stuck out, was that it was driving for dollars. So Max would drive for dollars, see a house, and forget sending a postcard, forget skip tracing. Max would just get out and knock on the door.
Yeah.
And then on Property Radar, he can see what their other address was.
Yeah.
And then he would drive to that house.
Yeah.
So when you talk about taking action, that's taking action, right? There's no skip tracing. There's no this or that. It's house looks like crap. I'm going to knock on the door. Oh, they didn't open. Let me find their other address. I'm going to knock on that door.
Yeah.
That's commitment.
Yeah, and one of the things too, we call them like on the spot. So even like some of the apps now, they skip trace for you.
Right.
And some people, I don't understand. Like, you're there in front of the house, call them. They might be 10 minutes down the road. Hey, I'm gonna be there right now. Yeah. You never know that. I didn't have that when I was door knocking back, where Property Radar, but those numbers were like,
those numbers are junk.
Yeah, they're junk, but I still call them, went knock on the door, or you know what, I would knock on the neighbor's door too.
Yeah.
That would help, like, because most neighbors honestly don't want to see that type of property because they attract druggies, they attract squatters. So we would say, hey, if you can help us find the owner, we'll clean it up for you, and we'll make sure that, a nice family moves in there. So they're more than happy to help you. But yeah, definitely got to take that action, man.
Yeah. So is that bulldoggedness? Is one of the best traits I see in Max. Bruce Scott wants to know whether our people are licensed. So 2 out of 3.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 are licensed.
Dave McLennan wants to know, what formula do we use to buy at?
So that's so we try to stick with like 75% ARV minus repairs. Sometimes, depending on the house, if it's a newer house, we'll be a little more lenient on the 75%, either go higher or something. Mm-hmm. Depending on condition too, we'll buy it a little higher. But we're always, that's our starting point, 75% minus repairs, and then obviously we don't stick that rule to every house. We look at every house individually. And that's where we start. Does this make sense to go this route? Okay, let's adjust. Like, we don't have like that. That's not our concrete for everything. Mm-hmm. And that's what's helped us out a lot too, to make sure that we look at every property as an individual. We look at every property individually, and we start there with our approach, but then we adjust as soon as we start finding out like other little details about it. Yeah.
Right. And we'll ask our peers, right? We got a lot of competition / friends in the market. It's like, hey, we're going to this one. What do you see this one at?
Yeah, correct.
Or what do you think someone will pay for this?
Yeah.
So we talked about marketing expenses. What about our total monthly overhead?
Well, I mean, we're at Sunny Home's office. I mean, that's something you might be able to answer.
Yeah. We don't really have a lot of. So the nice thing is that me personally, I already have a couple other businesses going, so we just leverage those resources. So able to use the TC from my team, able to use the office from my team, electricity and all that. So that helps a lot. Any valuable resources? We already talked about the tools. Is there anything else that we've missed?
Valuable resources? Not really, man. I mean, there's a lot of information out there.
There's a lot of information. So we got sales training. So the sales, we've got the Grandmaster, Brad Ferguson.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So he's our sales coach.
Our sensei.
We got, I would say, our network. You know, we're surrounded by the best in the business. And it was cool. You weren't able to make it in Dallas, but, man, I would say hanging out with Pace, Jamil, Evo, Annie, Jesse, Bryant, like, it's just crazy. So our network is a great resource.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that, man. That you're, again, going back, I think Jesse asked this earlier, but yeah, the network has made, it's night and day, dude, like, honestly.
Yeah, we wouldn't be where we are right now if it weren't for them.
And you know, one of the things most people are, again, going back to your beliefs and how you grew up, you got to break those beliefs and reach out to people. They're most willing to help you more than none. You know, they're willing to reach out. The one thing is that you can't do is like, hey, let me pick your brain. You got to provide some type of value, right? You got to figure out how can, you know, if you're gonna build your network, it's not just about give me, but, you know, how do we provide value to that person as well, you know?
Yep. Yeah. So we already talked about Podio, tools, systems. What would we do if the market dips?
Make lower offers.
Yeah.
Not too worried about that. We just keep trucking.
What is your why?
My why. Great question, and I think you and I had talked about this before. Obviously, my family, my wife, right? That's pretty much always there. But my bigger why is, for me, I'm a person that likes to live. I want to get to a point where I live life on my terms, right? Convenience, you know, do what I want when I want. You know what I mean? Because growing up, obviously, it was always like, no, you can't do that. No, we can't afford that. No, you can't. You know, you can't do that. Like, there was a lot of restrictions growing up. So it's not saying that the money's my why, but the convenience of being able, because I'm a big giver, and sometimes that affects me. My wife's like, I like to see people be blessed. Actually, I get more happier when other people are blessed when I buy them something or I give to them. So I'm a big giver. So that's one of my whys, is that the convenience and being able to live life on my terms, you know, not have to worry about those things ever. And now passing that on to my kids.
Yeah.
That's my big why. Yeah.
Awesome. What's your biggest struggle right now?
Biggest struggle right now, I think since we're growing, we're scaling, obviously, it's always that struggle, whether do we bring another person on? Do we bring, you know what I mean? It's always trying to figure, it's not so much, it's a little bit of a struggle because you got a good thing going, but yet in order to scale, you got to disrupt that a little bit. So that's, I know you and I haven't really talked about this, but I know that we got like big goals and stuff, but that's kind of like the struggle. How do we make that next step, you know, to that 10 and 12 or whatever, without disrupting too much what we got now? So that's kind of been a little bit thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what is your superpower?
My work ethic, man. Honestly. I
agree.
Yeah. I don't think, you know, I've always had to work for everything hard. I told you, when my cousin is the one that instilled that in me. When I would, dude, he was the best cousin ever at work. We show up to work like I didn't know who the heck this guy was. I'm like, dang it, what happened? We just got off the truck. What happened? But yeah, definitely my work ethic, man. That is my superpower.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jay Tovar wants to know what advice you'd give to an acquisition rep who's looking to go from 1 to 2 deals a month to closing 4 to 5 deals a month.
If you're not doing it already, I would say, develop your sales skills, man. Develop your, because you can ramp up your marketing, you can ramp up your text messaging, your cold calling, but if those leads that are coming in and you don't, and you're not getting better, you know, at conversion, you're not getting better at closing those leads or converting those leads into deals, what's going to happen is you're just going to get frustrated. You know, and like, you know, that's really what I could say, you know, for that, honestly. Yeah. So develop, you know, grow get into, develop your sales skills and get into some actual training. Because you can find a lot of stuff on Instagram, you can find a lot of stuff on YouTube, but until you actually invest some money, which I've never done, honestly, man, until, you know, we got into sales training with Brad, you know, so that's been like the most I've ever invested in myself. But honestly, that's it's been night and day.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where it's going to take that, take you from 2 to 4 to whatever you want to be at.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a shameless plug right here, Jay. So we're actually doing a workshop next month, so May 25th. If you guys are interested in checking out the workshop, we're going to basically give our blueprint for what our business is doing. You got to text Disruptor Workshop to 345-345. Disruptor, one word, Workshop, one word. So Disruptor Workshop to 345-345. And we're going to show you all the sales training that we've gone through, as well as every single system that we have in place, so that when you guys leave, you have no excuse but to dominate when you get back. Next question is, what is your favorite, best, or most interesting failure?
Best and most interesting failure. I think I don't know if I have a best and most interesting failure, but I actually almost did quit at one point, like from doing the real estate. But actually, my wife actually was the one that checked me. And the part where I quit is during that time when I went to the event, October 2015. Doing all that reading, all the podcasts, and I'm like, nothing's happening, man. Mm-hmm. So, but she saw how much time I was investing in this thing. She would even get frustrated because we're in the car and I'm listening to podcasts. So I was like, I'm not getting deals, this and that. And she's like, you know what? You've invested so much time. She's like, don't quit now. Like, you're already all in. Yeah. So, and then she kind of reminded me of my friend that passed away that month before, we were going to go to the event. So.
Yep. Yeah. And that was Flip to Freedom that you went to.
Yeah, Flip to Freedom. Sean Terry's Flip to Freedom.
Yep. He's a legend. He's supposed to be. We're playing Instagram tag, trying to figure out when he's gonna be on the show. What book have you gifted more than any other?
Currently, we've gifted the Can't Teach Your Kid to Ride Bicycle at a Seminar, right?
Can't Teach Your Kid how to Ride a Bike at a Seminar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge book.
But the one I do recommend right now is Prospect the Silent Way. Yeah.
Awesome. And then, is there any lasting message that you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've learned, what I've learned from where I was at before you and I partnered up is that, it takes a long time to build a business. The thing about this business is that there's zero cost to entry besides your time, and then maybe some, a little bit of marketing, right? Mm-hmm. You go buy a franchise, it's like $250,000, right? You might not have to pay all in, but you got to at least have half or whatever it is. So it's easier to quit in this business. And the only thing I can say is, like, you have to stay persistent. You got to I posted this the other day on my Facebook, you got to put the blinders on and your head down. A lot of times we get caught up, like, seeing these people, they're doing this, they're doing that. And what happens, what I've learned is that not to compare your situation right now to where they are right now currently, because you have no idea what happened in that background. You have no idea if they were funded, if they had the money. But that's always been a thing of mine. Like, I've never looked at what the other person I admire, and I'm like, wow, that's great. But then I get focused and get back to, what is you have to figure out what your business structure is and what your end goal is going to be, not based off what they're doing, but what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. Yeah. And you got to be persistent, man. You can't give up. It takes a long time to build a business.
Yeah. Sage advice.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're going to end it there. So, definitely, if you guys are interested in the workshop, text Disruptor Workshop to 345-345. Also, if you guys want a copy of our assignment contract, text assignment 345-345. And then we got next week coming in from Houston, Derek Cuff, flipping a house on Instagram.
Cool.
So that's going to be fun. We got to hang out with him back in Dallas. And if you guys need help getting ARV or closing your deals in Phoenix, please reach out to Max on Instagram. What's your handle again?
It's Max Jimenez _ERA. So Max Jimenez _era.
There you go. And again, guys, if you like this show, please share this episode right now, because a rising tide does lift all boats. Thank you guys for listening, and Thank you. This was awesome.
Yep.